Good morning, beloved. Today is Wednesday, August 19th, and before you rush into the demands of this day, pause for a moment, take a breath, let your heart become still. There is something powerful about beginning the morning with expectation, not the expectation that everything will be easy, but the deep expectation that God is already present, already working, and already making a way where you cannot yet see one. You did not wake up by accident. You woke up with another opportunity to witness God's goodness. Maybe yesterday was difficult. Maybe you went to sleep carrying questions that still have no answers. Maybe you have been praying for a door to open, a burden to lift, a relationship to heal, a financial need to be met, or a dream that seems to have taken too long to come alive. But this morning, let your heart hear this truth. Your present circumstances do not have the authority to define your future. Start today expecting God's goodness. Expect favor where you thought you would find resistance. Expect strength where you felt weak. Expect wisdom when you don't know which direction to take. Expect victory, not because you have every answer, but because you know the one who holds every answer. There are mornings when faith feels like a roaring river, and there are mornings when faith is only a tiny flame. But even a small flame can push back the darkness. You don't have to understand everything today. You only have to trust God enough to take the next step. So as we enter this morning prayer, open your hands and release yesterday. Release the disappointment. Release the fear. Release the need to control every outcome. And say within your spirit, God, I am here. Lead me, cover me, give me favor, give me victory. Let your goodness follow me today. Because when you begin the day looking for God's goodness, you start noticing blessings you might have otherwise overlooked. A new opportunity, a word of encouragement, unexpected help, strength for another hour, peace in the middle of uncertainty. Today, don't walk as someone defeated by yesterday. Walk as someone who believes that God is still writing the story. Start the day with expectation. There is something sacred about the first moments of a morning. Before the noise begins, before the phone starts asking for your attention, before the responsibilities of the day come knocking at your door, there is a quiet space where you can choose what you will carry into the hours ahead. And this morning, choose expectation. Not the shallow expectation that says everything must happen exactly the way you want it to happen. Not the fragile kind of hope that disappears the moment something goes wrong. No. I am speaking about a deeper expectation, the kind that rises from faith and says, I may not know what today will bring, but I know I do not walk into it alone. There will be days when you wake up with questions. There will be mornings when yesterday's disappointment is still sitting beside you like an unwanted guest. You may open your eyes and remember the bill you cannot yet pay. You may remember the conversation that wounded you. You may think about the opportunity that slipped through your fingers. You may wonder why the prayer you whispered again and again has not yet received the answer you hoped for. But listen carefully this morning. Yesterday is not today. The disappointment of yesterday does not have permission to write the story of this morning. You have been given another sunrise, another breath, another opportunity to place your life into the hands of God and say, Lord, I am still here. Sometimes that is the miracle. Sometimes the greatest evidence that God has been carrying you is the simple fact that you are still standing after everything that tried to convince you that you would not. You have survived days you once thought would break you. You have walked through seasons you once thought would never end. You have cried tears that nobody saw. You have carried burdens that you never had the words to explain. And yet here you are. So don't look at this morning through the eyes of yesterday's pain. Look at it through the eyes of possibility. Wake up expecting that God can do something beautiful with this day. You do not have to know what that beautiful thing will be. That is where faith begins. Faith does not demand a map before it takes the first step. Faith says, God, I trust you enough to move forward even when I cannot see the entire road. There is a particular kind of strength in expecting goodness when life has given you reasons to expect disappointment. Anybody can celebrate when everything is working. Anybody can smile when the answer has already arrived. But there is something powerful about the soul that says, I have not seen it yet, but I still believe. That kind of expectation is not weakness. It is courage. It is the courage to open your heart again after it has been disappointed. It is the courage to pray again after you have prayed many times. It is the courage to dream again after life has taught you that dreams sometimes take longer than you expected. And perhaps that is what you need this Wednesday morning. Not another reason to be afraid, but another reason to believe. Believe that God is still working. Believe that your story is not finished. Believe that a closed door does not mean every door is closed. Believe that a delay is not automatically a denial. Believe that what you cannot see may already be taking shape. There are things happening beyond your sight. A seed does not look like a tree when it is placed beneath the soil. For a while it appears that nothing is happening. The earth looks quiet. The surface gives no indication of the work underneath. But underneath the soil something is happening. Roots are forming. Life is preparing itself. And there may be seasons in your life that look just as quiet. You pray, but nothing seems to change. You work, but the reward seems distant. You wait, but the door remains closed. You wonder, God, are you doing anything? And perhaps the answer is, more than you can see. Do not mistake silence for absence. Do not mistake waiting for abandonment. Do not mistake the hidden season for a wasted season. God can work in places your eyes cannot reach. So this morning, before you begin listing everything that could go wrong, begin remembering everything that could go right. Before you rehearse your fears, rehearse God's faithfulness. Before you tell yourself, I don't know how I'm going to make it, remind your heart, I have made it through difficult days before. Before you say nothing is going to change, leave room for God to surprise you. Expectation creates room in the heart. It says, I am still available for blessing. It says, I am still open to possibility. It says, I will not allow yesterday's pain to make me blind to today's grace. And grace is often closer than we think. Perhaps you woke up this morning and thought you had nothing to celebrate. But you have breath. You have another opportunity. You have another chance to love somebody. Another chance to forgive. Another chance to begin. Another chance to make a different decision. Another chance to take one small step toward the life God has placed in your heart. Do not despise the small beginning. A new chapter rarely announces itself with thunder. Sometimes it begins quietly. Sometimes it begins with one decision, one prayer, one conversation, one act of courage, one yes after years of saying no, one moment when you finally decide that fear will no longer be the loudest voice in your life. So get up this morning with expectation, wash your face, straighten your shoulders, take a deep breath, and remind yourself that you are not required to solve your entire life before breakfast. You only need to walk faithfully into today. Let God handle tomorrow while you give Him your today. If you have a difficult conversation ahead, ask Him for wisdom. If you have a difficult decision ahead, ask Him for direction. If you have a financial burden, ask Him for provision. If you are carrying disappointment, ask Him for peace. If you are waiting for an opportunity, ask Him for patience. If you are afraid of what comes next, ask Him for courage. And then keep moving, because expectation is not sitting in a chair waiting for miracles to fall into your lap. Expectation prepares you to recognize the miracle when it comes. It makes you willing to walk through the door when it opens. It gives you courage to answer the call. It gives you strength to try again. It reminds you that your responsibility is faithfulness, while God's responsibility is the outcome. You may plant the seed. You may water it. You may nurture it, but you cannot command the sun to rise. You cannot force the rain to fall. You cannot pull the flower from the soil before its season. There are things you must leave in God's hands, and there is freedom in that. You do not have to control everything to have a meaningful day. You do not have to know everything to have faith. You do not have to see the entire staircase to take the next step. Take the next step. That is enough for this morning. And if the day does not unfold exactly as you hoped, do not surrender your expectation at the first inconvenience. God's goodness is not measured by whether every moment goes according to your plan. Sometimes goodness is protection from what you wanted. Sometimes goodness is redirection. Sometimes goodness is the strength to endure. Sometimes goodness is the wisdom to walk away. Sometimes goodness is the patience to wait. And sometimes goodness is the unexpected blessing that arrives when you had almost stopped looking. So keep your heart open, keep your spirit willing, keep your faith alive. Walk through this Wednesday with your eyes lifted, not because you believe every moment will be perfect, but because you believe God can meet you in every moment. If the morning is peaceful, thank Him. If the afternoon becomes difficult, trust Him. If the evening brings an unexpected blessing, praise Him. And if the answer you have been waiting for does not come today, keep believing. Your prayer is not wasted. Your hope is not foolish. Your waiting is not meaningless. There is still goodness ahead of you. There are still chapters you have not read. There are still doors you have not opened. There are still people you have not met. There are still prayers whose answers you have not witnessed. There are still mornings waiting to become memories of God's faithfulness. So today, choose expectation. Walk into this day saying, something good can still happen. Say it when you feel strong. Say it when you feel tired. Say it when the circumstances agree. Say it especially when they do not, because your expectation is not ultimately resting on circumstances. It is resting on God. And when your heart rests in Him, you can face an uncertain day with an unshaken hope. So rise this morning, lift your head, open your heart, give God the first moments of your day, and whisper the prayer that can change the posture of your entire soul. Lord, I do not know everything this day will bring, but I trust you with all of it. Help me to expect your goodness. Help me to recognize your blessings. Lead me toward favor. Strengthen me for victory, and let me walk through this day knowing that you are with me. Then step forward, not defeated, not forgotten, not abandoned, but hopeful, expectant, and ready. Because this morning is not merely another morning, it is another opportunity to discover that God's goodness was closer than you thought. Ask God for favor. There are mornings when you know you need more than your own strength. You can make plans, work hard, prepare carefully, and do everything you know to do, yet there are still places where human effort reaches its limit. There are doors you cannot open by force. There are hearts you cannot change by persuasion. There are opportunities you cannot manufacture. There are outcomes you cannot control. That is why this morning, ask God for favor, not because you are unwilling to work, but because you understand that your work needs God's direction. Not because you want an easier life, but because you want His wisdom for the life you have been given. Favor is not merely receiving what you desire. Favor is God's grace accompanying you as you walk through circumstances you cannot control. It is the confidence that you can enter a room without knowing who will welcome you because you know God can go before you. It is the assurance that even when people misunderstand you, circumstances change, and plans fall apart, your life is still held by a greater hand. So before you begin this Wednesday, lift your heart toward heaven and ask, Lord, let your favor rest upon me today. Ask Him to guide your words. Ask Him to guide your decisions. Ask Him to guide your steps. Ask Him to place the right people in your path and give you wisdom to recognize them. Ask Him to protect you from relationships that look promising but would eventually drain your peace. Ask Him to close doors that would lead you away from His purpose, even when those doors appear attractive. Because sometimes favor looks like an open door, and sometimes favor looks like a closed one. There are moments when we pray, God, please make this happen, while God in His wisdom is answering by saying, no, I have something better for you. We may not understand it at first. We may cry over it. We may question it. But time has a way of revealing what our emotions could not see. How many times have you looked back at something you once begged God to give you and realized that losing it was actually protection? How many times did you think a closed door was rejection, only to discover later that it was redirection? You cannot always recognize favor while you are standing inside the moment. Sometimes favor only becomes visible when you look backward. So ask God for favor, but also ask Him for the humility to accept His answer. Say, Lord, if the door is for me, open it. If it is not from me, give me peace when you close it. If the path is right, strengthen my feet. If I am walking in the wrong direction, turn me around before I lose myself. That is a powerful prayer, because you are no longer asking God merely to bless your plans. You are asking Him to bless your life. There is a difference. Your plan may be limited by what you can see. God's purpose is not limited by what you can see. You may look at your present circumstances and see a wall. God may see another road. You may see an ending. God may see a beginning. You may see a delay. God may see preparation. You may see rejection. God may see protection. And you may see an empty space where you wanted an answer, while God is preparing something you could never have arranged for yourself. So do not be ashamed to ask for favor. Ask boldly. Ask sincerely. Ask with faith. But remember that favor does not mean you will never face difficulty. A favored life can still have hard days. A faithful person can still experience disappointment. A person walking with God can still encounter opposition. The presence of difficulty does not mean the absence of God. Sometimes favor gives you the strength to walk through the difficulty without becoming bitter. Sometimes favor gives you wisdom to respond instead of react. Sometimes favor gives you peace while everybody around you is panicking. Sometimes favor gives you courage to stand when everything inside you wants to sit down. And sometimes favor simply means that you wake up with enough strength to try again. Never underestimate that kind of grace. There are people who are asking God for a spectacular miracle, when the miracle they need first is the strength to keep going. Maybe that is you this morning. Maybe you have been tired for a long time. Maybe you have smiled in front of people while carrying private burdens in your heart. Maybe you have been strong for everyone else and forgotten that you also need somewhere to rest. Then let this morning be your place of rest. You do not have to pretend before God. Tell Him the truth. Lord, I am tired. Lord, I am uncertain. Lord, I am afraid. Lord, I need direction. Lord, I need favor. There is no shame in admitting that you need help. The strongest prayer is sometimes the simplest one. God, I need you. And when you admit your need, you make room for trust. You begin to understand that you were never designed to carry everything by yourself. So ask God to go before you today. Before you enter the workplace, ask Him to go before you. Before you make that phone call, ask Him to go before you. Before you have that conversation, ask Him to go before you. Before you make that decision, ask Him to go before you. Before you walk into an unfamiliar situation, ask Him to go before you. You may not know what is waiting for you, but God already knows. There may be an opportunity waiting that you did not expect. There may be a person you need to meet. There may be information you need to hear. There may be a conversation that changes your perspective. There may be an answer hidden inside an ordinary moment. Walk with your heart open, because favor can arrive quietly. It does not always come wearing a crown. Sometimes favor looks like someone remembering your name. Sometimes it looks like an unexpected phone call. Sometimes it looks like a problem being resolved before you even knew it existed. Sometimes it looks like missing the bus that later gets into an accident. Sometimes it looks like being told no to something you desperately wanted. Sometimes it looks like a delay that gives you time to become ready. God's favor does not always feel comfortable, but His wisdom is greater than our comfort. So today, do not ask only, God, give me what I want. Ask, God, give me what is good for me. That prayer requires maturity. It requires trust. It requires surrender. And surrender does not mean giving up on your dreams. It means placing your dreams in hands wiser than your own. You can still dream. You can still work. You can still hope. You can still pursue excellence, but you do it without believing that your entire future depends on your ability to control every outcome. You do your part, then you trust God with His part. There will be moments when you will have to walk into places where you feel unqualified. Remember then that qualification is not always about having every skill before you begin. Sometimes you grow into the assignment. Sometimes the opportunity arises before you feel completely ready. That is when you ask for favor. Lord, give me wisdom beyond my experience. Give me courage beyond my fear. Give me grace beyond my ability. Let me represent you well. and then step forward. Do not shrink because you are afraid. Do not make yourself smaller because someone else failed to recognize your worth. Do not allow one person's rejection to become your identity. A person can say no to you without God saying no to your future. A door can close without your destiny closing. A season can end without your story ending. Keep moving, keep praying, keep trusting. There are places your feet have not yet touched. There are opportunities you cannot yet see. There are blessings you have not yet imagined, and you do not have to chase every one of them. Walk faithfully and let God direct your steps. Today, may you have favor in your conversations. May you have favor in your decisions. May you have favor in your work. May you have favor in your relationships. May you have favor in places where you once experienced resistance. May wisdom accompany your words. May peace accompany your heart. May courage accompany your actions. And when something does not go according to your plan, may you remember that God is still present. Do not let one difficult moment convince you that the whole day is ruined. Do not let one closed door convince you that there are no doors left. Do not let one disappointment convince you that goodness has forgotten your address. God's goodness is not lost. Your blessing is not late because someone else received theirs first. You do not have to compete with another person's journey. Your life has its own timing. Your prayers have their own story. Your path has its own lessons. So walk your path. Ask for favor. Work with diligence. Speak with kindness. Choose integrity. Remain teachable. And trust God with the results. This Wednesday morning, place your plans before Him. Place your concerns before Him. Place your dreams before Him. Place your unanswered questions before Him. Then say, Lord, go before me today. Let your favor surround me. Give me wisdom where I am uncertain, strength where I am weak, courage where I am afraid, and peace where I cannot control the outcome. Open the doors that belong to me. Close the doors that would harm me, and teach me to recognize the difference. Let my life today be guided not merely by what I want, but by what you know is good. Then rise. Walk forward. Do not walk as though you have been forgotten. Walk as someone who believes that grace can meet you on the road. You may not know what this day holds, but you know who holds you, and sometimes that is enough. So go into this day with your head lifted and your heart steady. Ask for favor, expect guidance, receive grace, and trust that wherever God sends you today, you will not arrive there alone. Trust God when the way is unclear. There are moments in life when the road ahead seems covered in fog. You can see enough to know that you are standing at the beginning of something, but you cannot see far enough to know where the road will lead. You ask questions, you make plans, you search for signs, and still the answer does not come as clearly as you hoped. Those are the moments when trust becomes more than a word. Trust becomes a decision. This morning you may not know what is waiting for you beyond the next few steps. You may be facing a decision that has no obvious answer. You may be waiting for an opportunity, wondering whether you should keep pursuing it or let it go. You may be standing between what was and what will be, with neither place feeling completely comfortable. And perhaps God is inviting you to do something simple but difficult. Keep walking. You do not have to see the whole road to take the next step. You do not have to understand the entire plan to trust the one who knows it. There is a kind of faith that only appears when certainty disappears. When everything makes sense, trust can feel easy. But when the answers are hidden, when the timing is unfamiliar, when the future refuses to reveal itself, that is when the heart learns what it truly believes. You may say, Lord, I don't understand, and that is okay. You may say, Lord, I don't know what comes next. That is okay too. Faith does not require you to pretend that you have no questions. Faith gives you permission to bring those questions to God without allowing them to become the master of your heart. You can be uncertain and still be faithful. You can be afraid and still move forward. You can cry and still believe. You can have questions and still trust. There is no shame in not knowing. Sometimes we become exhausted because we think we must have every answer before we can take another step. We want God to show us the entire staircase before we are willing to put our foot on the first step. But life rarely works that way. The next step is often revealed only after you take the step before it. Think about a traveler walking at night with a small lamp. The lamp may not illuminate the entire road. It may only show a few feet ahead. But those few feet are enough. The traveler does not stand still saying, "I refuse to move until I can see 10 miles ahead." The traveler trusts the light that has been given. And perhaps that is what you are being asked to do today. Use the light you have. Take the wisdom you have. Take the opportunity you have. Take the strength you have. Take the next faithful step. Then trust God to reveal more when you arrive there. There are seasons when God does not give you the complete picture because He is teaching you to trust His presence rather than your ability to predict the future. You want certainty. God may be building confidence. You want an explanation. God may be developing endurance. You want immediate answers. God may be preparing you for an answer that requires a stronger version of yourself. Waiting can be uncomfortable, but discomfort does not mean that nothing is happening. A seed beneath the soil appears forgotten to the person standing above it. But beneath the surface, life is working. Roots are reaching. The beginning of something is taking shape. And there may be things happening in your life that you cannot yet see. Do not dig up the seed every morning to check whether it is growing. Give it time. Give God room. You planted the prayer. Now let faith water it. You made the effort. Now let God handle what is beyond your reach. You did what you could. Now release what you cannot control. There is freedom in surrender, not the surrender that says, "I don't care anymore." The surrender that says, "I care deeply, but I trust God more than I trust my fear." That is a different kind of surrender. It does not make you passive. It makes you peaceful. You continue to work. You continue to prepare. You continue to pursue what is good. But you stop allowing anxiety to convince you that everything depends upon you. You were never meant to carry tomorrow on your shoulders. Tomorrow has not even arrived. Why carry a day that has not yet been given to you? Today has enough of its own work. Today has enough beauty. Today has enough opportunity. Today has enough grace. So breathe. Stay here. Take this morning as it comes. If you have a decision to make, ask for wisdom. If you have a door before you, ask whether it is the right door. If you are waiting for an answer, ask for patience. If you are afraid of making a mistake, ask for courage. And if you do make a mistake, remember that one wrong step does not mean your entire journey is ruined. You can learn, you can turn, you can begin again. God can work with a life that has taken wrong turns. He can bring wisdom from mistakes. He can bring maturity from disappointment. He can bring compassion from pain. He can bring direction from confusion. Your uncertainty does not disqualify you from being guided. Sometimes you discover God's direction precisely because you admit that you need it. So stop being ashamed of saying, "I don't know." There is humility in those words. There is possibility in those words. When you say, "I don't know," you leave room for learning. When you say, "I need help," you leave room for grace. When you say, "God, lead me," you leave room for divine direction. And perhaps that is the prayer this morning. God, lead me. Not merely, God, give me what I want. Not merely, God, make everything easy. But, God, lead me. Lead me away from what will destroy my peace. Lead me toward what will strengthen my purpose. Lead me away from relationships that pull me away from what is right. Lead me toward people who encourage wisdom, kindness, courage, and truth. Lead me away from decisions made from fear. Lead me toward decisions made with clarity. Lead me away from the need to impress people. Lead me toward the freedom to become who you created me to be. That prayer can change the way you walk through an uncertain season, because suddenly you are not demanding that the road become completely visible. You are asking God to guide your feet, and there is a great difference. You may still have questions. The circumstances may still be complicated. The answer may still be delayed, but your heart can become steady. You can say, "I don't know what is coming, but I know I will meet it one step at a time." There is strength in that. You do not need to know whether every person will understand you. You do not need to know whether every opportunity will succeed. You do not need to know how every bill will be paid months from now. You do not need to know exactly where you will be next year. You need today's wisdom for today's responsibility. And when tomorrow comes, ask for tomorrow's wisdom. God gives grace for the day you are living. So do not waste today's strength worrying about a future that has not arrived. You have enough courage for this moment. You have enough grace for this morning. You have enough strength for this next step. And if you feel like you don't, ask God for it. Sometimes the prayer is not, Lord, remove the mountain. Sometimes the prayer is, Lord, give me strength for the climb. And there are mountains that teach you things valleys never could. There are difficult roads that develop muscles of faith you would never have discovered on an easy path. There are seasons that teach you patience. There are delays that teach you endurance. There are disappointments that teach you discernment. There are unanswered prayers that teach you surrender. You may not choose the lesson, but you can choose what you become while learning it. Do not let uncertainty turn you bitter. Let it make you deeper. Do not let waiting make you hopeless. Let it make you patient. Do not let disappointment make you close your heart. Let it teach you wisdom without stealing your capacity to love. And do not allow fear to make your world smaller than God's purpose for you. Step forward, slowly if necessary, with tears if necessary, with trembling hands if necessary, but step forward. You don't need perfect confidence. You need enough faith for the next step. And perhaps one day, when you look backward, you will see that the road was not as empty as you thought. You will recognize moments of protection that once looked like disappointment. You will recognize guidance hidden inside delays. You will recognize blessings that arrived disguised as endings. You will recognize that some prayers were answered differently because God knew something you did not. Then you may look back and say, now I understand. But until that day comes, trust. Trust without needing every explanation. Trust while you wait. Trust while you work. Trust while you pray. Trust while you begin again. This Wednesday morning, place the unknown into God's hands. Do not demand that the entire future reveal itself before you are willing to live today. Let tomorrow remain tomorrow. Let today be today. Take the next step. Make the next wise decision. Speak the next kind word. Complete the next responsibility. Say the next prayer. And then take another step when the time comes. You may not know where the road leads, but you do not have to walk it alone. So lift your heart this morning and say, Lord, when I cannot see the way, be my guide. When I cannot understand what you are doing, help me trust you. When I am afraid of the unknown, remind me that the unknown is not unknown to you. Give me wisdom for this moment, courage for the next step, and peace for everything I cannot control. If you open a door, give me courage to walk through it. If you close a door, give me grace to accept it. And wherever you lead me, help me remember that I am never walking alone. Then breathe. Take the next step. Let faith be greater than fear. Let trust be stronger than uncertainty. And let your heart rest in the quiet knowledge that even when you cannot see the road ahead, God can. The path may be unclear. The future may be hidden. The answers may take time. But you can still move forward. Because you do not need to see everything. You only need to trust enough to take the next step. Believe that victory is still possible. There are moments when life has a way of making victory look impossible. You look at the circumstances in front of you, and you wonder how anything good could possibly come from them. You have prayed, you have waited, you have tried again. You have done what you knew to do, and still the mountain stands there, tall and stubborn, refusing to move. But this morning, before you decide that the story is over, remember this. You are still here, and as long as you are still here, there is still room for God to move. Victory does not always arrive when you expect it. Sometimes it takes a road you would never have chosen. Sometimes it comes after a season of waiting. Sometimes it looks nothing like the picture you had in your mind. But victory is not impossible simply because it has not happened yet. There are things in your life that may look unfinished, but unfinished does not mean defeated. A chapter can be difficult without being the final chapter. A season can be painful without being permanent. A door can close without every door closing. A setback can interrupt the journey without ending it. So today, refuse to call yourself defeated while God is still writing. You may not have the answer yet. You may not have the breakthrough yet. You may not see the change yet, but not yet is not the same thing as never. Sometimes those two little words make all the difference. Not yet. There is hope inside those words. Not yet means the story is still moving. Not yet means there is still time. Not yet means you have permission to keep believing, and perhaps you need that permission this morning. Perhaps you have been disappointed so many times that hope has begun to feel dangerous. You remember what it was like to expect something good and receive something painful instead. You remember opening your heart and having it wounded. You remember believing that a door would open only to watch it close. You remember making plans that fell apart. You remember praying for one outcome and receiving another. And now a quiet voice inside you says, "Don't expect too much. You will only be disappointed again." But fear does not get to decide your future. Your past may explain some of your fears, but it does not have the authority to write your destiny. You have learned from yesterday. You have survived yesterday. Now you must refuse to live permanently inside yesterday. There is another morning in front of you, and with another morning comes another opportunity to believe. Victory begins in the heart before it becomes visible in circumstances. Before you see the door open, you must believe that doors can open. Before you experience change, you must remain willing to believe that change is possible. Before you walk into a new season, you must stop allowing the old season to convince you that nothing will ever be different. This does not mean pretending that everything is wonderful. Faith is not denial. Faith can look directly at the problem and still say, "This problem is not bigger than God." Faith can acknowledge the tears and still believe there will be joy again. Faith can admit, "I am tired," and still whisper, "I will keep going." That is courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is refusing to let fear become your master. There may be a mountain in front of you. Climb. There may be a difficult conversation ahead. Speak with wisdom. There may be a dream that has taken longer than expected. Keep preparing. There may be a burden you cannot carry alone. Ask for help. There may be a situation that requires patience. Wait without surrendering hope. Victory may not mean that everything changes overnight. Sometimes victory means that you change. You become stronger. You become wiser. You become more discerning. You stop begging for acceptance from people who do not value you. You stop chasing doors that God has already closed. You stop allowing temporary circumstances to determine your permanent identity. You learn to say no without guilt. You learn to say yes without fear. You learn that peace is more valuable than appearances. You learn that being misunderstood is sometimes the price of being honest. You learn that you do not need everyone to approve of you in order to walk confidently in the purpose God has placed before you. That is victory too. Perhaps you have been asking God for victory over a circumstance when He is first giving you victory within yourself. Victory over bitterness. Victory over fear. Victory over shame. Victory over the need to control everything. Victory over the belief that your worth depends on what other people say about you. Victory over the temptation to give up. And when those victories begin taking place inside you, the outside world may look the same for a while, but you are not the same. You have become steadier. You have become stronger. You have learned how to stand. And sometimes the greatest miracle is discovering that the thing you thought would destroy you became the thing that taught you how powerful endurance can be. You have already survived difficult days. Don't forget that. You have walked through storms before. You have faced mornings when you did not know how you would make it through the evening, and somehow you did. You may not have walked through those days gracefully every moment. Maybe you cried. Maybe you complained. Maybe you doubted. Maybe you fell apart for a while, but you kept breathing. You kept moving. You kept getting up. And there is something holy about getting up. The world may celebrate the person who never falls, but there is another kind of beauty in the person who falls and decides to rise again. That person knows something. That person knows that falling is not the end. That person knows that pain can be real without being permanent. That person knows that weakness can exist without becoming identity. That person knows that one bad chapter cannot summarize an entire book. You are not your worst day. You are not your greatest disappointment. You are not the opportunity you lost. You are not the relationship that ended. You are not the mistake you made. You are not the season that broke your heart. You are a person still becoming. And because you are still becoming, there is still possibility. So believe that victory is possible. Not because you can predict the future, not because every obstacle will disappear, not because life will suddenly become painless. Believe because God is greater than the circumstance you can see. When you cannot see a way, He can make one. When you cannot see provision, He can provide. When you cannot see strength, He can renew you. When you cannot see the answer, He can sustain you while you wait. And sometimes the way forward begins with one small act of faith. Get out of bed. Make the call. Send the application. Have the conversation. Open the book. Begin the work. Say the prayer. Forgive the person. Forgive yourself. Try again. You do not need to perform a miracle today. You only need to take the next faithful step. And never underestimate what God can do with a faithful step. A river is crossed one step at a time. A mountain is climbed one step at a time. A dream becomes reality one decision at a time. Healing begins one honest moment at a time. A new life begins one courageous choice at a time. So don't become overwhelmed by the distance between where you are and where you want to be. Focus on the step in front of you. God does not ask you to live tomorrow today. He asks you to be faithful with today. And today you can believe again, you can hope again, you can try again, you can pray again, you can begin again. There is no shame in beginning again. Sometimes beginning again is the bravest thing a person can do. Maybe the first attempt failed. Try again. Maybe the plan changed. Adapt. Maybe the door closed. Look for another door. Maybe the people you expected to support you did not. Keep going anyway. Maybe you are afraid. Go forward with the fear beside you instead of letting it sit in the driver's seat. And when you become tired, rest. Rest is not surrender. Rest is preparation. You do not have to prove your strength by exhausting yourself. Even the strongest heart needs moments of quiet. So rest when you need to, pray when you need to, cry when you need to. But do not bury your hope. Keep a small place inside yourself where possibility can breathe, because you never know what God may do next. The phone call may come. The opportunity may appear. The answer may arrive. The relationship may heal. The provision may come. The idea may emerge. The strength may return. The door may open. And even if the answer does not come in the way you expected, God can still lead you toward something meaningful. Sometimes victory is not getting what you thought you needed. Sometimes victory is discovering that what you truly needed was different. So release the picture. Keep the faith. Let God surprise you. This morning, speak over your life with hope. Say, I will not call myself defeated while God is still working. I will not allow yesterday to determine tomorrow. I will not allow fear to become the voice that guides my decisions. I will keep walking. I will keep praying. I will keep believing. I will take the next step, and I will trust God with what comes after it. Let those words settle into your heart. You may be closer than you think. The night may have been long, but morning still came. The storm may have been fierce, but you are still standing. The road may be difficult, but your feet can still move. The mountain may be high, but you can still climb. Victory is still possible, so lift your eyes, take a breath, gather your courage, and walk into this Wednesday with faith. You do not need to know exactly how the story will unfold. You only need to believe that the story is not over. There are still possibilities ahead. There is still grace for today. There is still strength for the journey. There is still goodness to discover. And there is still a God who can turn what looks impossible into a testimony of perseverance, faith, and unexpected grace. So keep going, keep believing, keep your heart open. Victory may not look like what you imagined, but do not give up before you have seen what God can do. Look for God's goodness in the ordinary. There are blessings that arrive without making a sound. They do not knock loudly on the door. They do not announce themselves with trumpets. They do not always come wrapped in the kind of package you expected. Sometimes God's goodness enters your life so quietly that you almost miss it. A peaceful morning, a breath that comes easily, a conversation that gives you courage, a problem that somehow resolves itself, a moment of laughter when you thought you had forgotten how to smile. These things may appear small, but small does not mean insignificant. This morning, slow down enough to notice. We live in a world that teaches us to look for the extraordinary. We are told to celebrate the promotion, the large check, the new house, the answered prayer, the dramatic breakthrough. And there is nothing wrong with celebrating those things. But if you only recognize God's goodness when something spectacular happens, you may spend many ordinary days believing you have been forgotten. You have not been forgotten. God's goodness is often hidden in the ordinary. It is in the morning light coming through the window. It is in the person who asks, "How are you?" and actually waits for the answer. It is in the strength to get out of bed when yesterday exhausted you. It is in the ability to begin again. It is in the quiet moment when your heart becomes peaceful after hours of worry. It is in the wisdom that tells you not to answer an angry word with another angry word. It is in the restraint that keeps you from making a decision you would later regret. It is in the closed door that protects you from a path you were not meant to walk. Sometimes the blessing is what happened. Sometimes the blessing is what did not happen. And sometimes you will not understand which one it was until much later. That is why gratitude is more than saying thank you when life goes according to plan. Gratitude is training your eyes to see what is already present, to see what you once prayed for but have become accustomed to. Think about the things you have today that an earlier version of yourself once begged God to provide. Maybe you prayed for peace. Maybe you prayed for stability. Maybe you prayed for another chance. Maybe you prayed for strength. Maybe you prayed simply to survive a difficult season. And now you have some of those things, but because you have lived with them for a while, they no longer feel miraculous. Do not let familiarity steal your gratitude. The ordinary can become sacred when you pay attention. There is something beautiful about waking up and realizing that you have another day to love, another day to learn, another day to forgive, another day to grow, another day to make a better choice, another day to discover something you did not know yesterday. You do not need a perfect life to have a grateful heart. In fact, gratitude becomes most powerful when life is imperfect. Anybody can say thank you when the answer arrives, but there is a deeper kind of gratitude that says, "God, I thank you for sustaining me while I wait." That kind of gratitude does not deny pain. It simply refuses to let pain become the only thing you can see. You can acknowledge what hurts and still notice what is good. You can be disappointed and still be grateful. You can be waiting and still have hope. You can have unanswered questions and still recognize answered prayers. This is not pretending. This is perspective. Sometimes the heart needs to be reminded that one difficult circumstance is not the whole story. You may have received one disappointing phone call, but there may still be 10 good things happening around you. You may have one door closed, but there may be windows you have not noticed. You may have one person who walked away, but there may be people standing beside you who love you deeply. You may have one dream delayed, but you still have breath in your body and possibility in front of you. Look again. Sometimes you have to look again. The blessing may be closer than you think. Perhaps this morning you are thinking about everything that is missing. Instead, for a moment, think about what remains. Your ability to begin, your ability to pray, your ability to choose, your ability to love, your ability to learn, your ability to change direction, your ability to say, "Tomorrow I will do better." Those abilities are gifts. Do not underestimate them. There are people who would give almost anything for one more opportunity to make a different decision, one more morning with someone they love, one more chance to say what they never said. And you have this morning. Do not rush past it. Sit with it. Breathe in the gift of it. Let yourself feel the quiet wonder of being alive. There is no guarantee that every day will be easy, but every day can contain something worth noticing. Maybe it is the smell of coffee. Maybe it is sunlight on the floor. Maybe it is the sound of someone laughing. Maybe it is a kind word. Maybe it is a moment when your mind finally becomes quiet. Maybe it is the simple realization that you are stronger than you were last year. God's goodness does not have to be dramatic to be real. Sometimes it is gentle. Sometimes it is ordinary. Sometimes it is almost invisible. But it is still goodness. And when you learn to recognize it, something changes inside you. You stop living as though you are constantly waiting for your real life to begin. You begin living the life that is already in front of you. You stop saying, I will be grateful when I have more money, when I get the promotion, when the relationship is fixed, when the problem disappears, when the dream comes true. And you begin saying, I can be grateful now. Not because everything is perfect, because everything is not perfect, but because perfection is not the requirement for gratitude. Gratitude is a choice to notice grace in the middle of reality, and grace is everywhere if you train your heart to see it. There may be someone reading this who has been waiting for a major breakthrough. You have asked God for something specific. You have imagined how it will feel when the answer finally arrives. But while you wait, don't miss today's blessings. Do not miss the people who love you because you are focused on the person who rejected you. Do not miss today's peace because you are worried about tomorrow's uncertainty. Do not miss the opportunity in front of you because you are mourning the one behind you. Do not miss the small miracle because you are waiting for the large one. A small light is still light. A small blessing is still a blessing. A small beginning is still a beginning. And sometimes the small thing becomes the doorway to the larger thing. A conversation can become an opportunity. An ordinary decision can change the direction of your life. A simple act of kindness can restore someone's faith in humanity. A quiet morning can give you the strength to face an afternoon you thought you could not handle. You never know what a small moment may become. So treat today with reverence, not because today is perfect, because today is yours to live. Walk through your morning with your eyes open. Notice the people around you. Notice the opportunities. Notice the peace. Notice the lessons. Notice the things that are working. Notice the things you have survived. Notice how far you have come. Sometimes we spend so much time looking ahead that we forget to honor the distance already traveled. Look back, not to live there, but to remember. There was a time when you thought you would never make it through, and yet you did. There was a time when you thought your heart would never heal, and yet you are still capable of love. There was a time when you thought you would never laugh again, and yet here you are, finding moments of joy. There was a time when you did not know what to do, and somehow you learned. That is goodness, that is grace. That is evidence that your story has not been abandoned. So today, instead of asking only, God, what are you going to give me? Ask another question. God, what have you already given me that I have forgotten to notice? That question can change a morning. It can change a heart. It can change an entire life. Because once you begin looking for goodness, you begin finding it. Not because the world suddenly became perfect, because your eyes became awake. You begin noticing that not every door is closed. Not every person is against you. Not every day is a battle. Not every silence means abandonment. Not every delay means denial. Not every ending is a loss. And not every ordinary moment is ordinary. Some moments become precious only after they are gone.